Hello chess lovers, let's have a look at a very interesting game played by Magnus Carlsen and Hans Harrestad. The game was played in 2003. Actually at that time Carlsen was 12 years old. His rating at that time was 2385 and his opponent's rating was 2249. Let's see how the game went on. Carlsen started with e4, e5 by black, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. We see Spanish game, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, white castles, b5, bishop b3, bishop e7, rook e1, d6, c3, black castles, h3, knight a5, opening up a space for the pawn to advance, bishop c2, c5, d4, queen c7, knight bd2, and a very dubious move, knight c6. It's better to take on d4 and then after c takes d4 play bishop b7. But after knight c6, white has this d5 move and black played knight d8. Let's compare these positions. This position where black knight can jump to c4 square, and this position of course can be very unpleasant for black. Carlsen played a4, rook a7, protecting the rook in case you take on b5, and then after recapture already this rook on a7 is defended. Knight f1, g6. By playing g6, black is weakening his dark squares, but at the same time takes under the control this f5 square in case you try to move your knight to f5 square. Now bishop h6, rook e8, knight g3, knight d7, knight h2, f6, bishop e3, knight b6, a takes b5, a takes b5, bishop d3. A better move is rook takes a7, queen takes a7 and h4, starting an attack in the king side. But we see bishop d3 move instead, bishop d7, queen d2, knight f7, rook takes a7, queen takes a7, queen e2, queen a6, protecting the pawn, knight g4, king g7, protecting the h6 square, bishop c1. White is opening up a space for the queen to move to this diagonal, c1, h6 diagonal. Knight a4, bishop c2, rook a8, queen e3, c4, rook f1, white is preparing f4 break, knight c5, and now comes knight h6, trying to get rid of this knight on f7. Knight g5 and f4 by Carlsen. E takes f4, queen takes f4, and a very simple tactics by black, bishop takes h3. Of course, if you recapture the bishop, then after knight takes h3, white can lose the game because of this fork. But it turns out that this bishop takes h3 move is losing the game. A better move is taking on h6. If h4, pinning the knight, then rook f8. H takes g5, f takes g5, queen h4 check, king g7, bishop takes g5, rook takes f1 check, knight takes f1, bishop takes g5, queen takes g5. Well, white has a slight advantage, but this continuation would have been better for black. But instead we see bishop takes h3 move. Now comes queen h4, bishop retreats back, and now a very strong move by Carlsen. Can you find that move? Ready? He played e5, sacrificing the pawn in order to open this b1 h7 diagonal. Black took on e5, and now knight h5. G takes h5. Well, if king h8, then simply bishop takes g5 is winning, and if f takes g5, then queen g3 can be very strong. Black is definitely in trouble. But after knight h5 check, we see g takes h5. And now in this position, white played a very strong move. Can you find that move? Ready? Queen takes g5 check. We see a queen sacrifice. Black took on g5 and now rook f7 check. King takes h6 and rook takes h7 checkmate. What a beautiful checkmate. Now can you understand how important it was to open up this diagonal by sacrificing the pawn on e5? An amazing game by a 12-year-old chess player. Your comments and questions please, and thanks for watching.